Welcome to Above Replacement Radio. I am your host, Chris Gianta. I might be becoming a bad baseball fan who can't enjoy the romantic things because of advanced statistics. 15 years from now, I want to be on the early baseball committee. Over there on the other side of the screen is Daniel Curran.
I literally have the Fangraphs hoodie, the baseball reference t-shirt, just repping some stats, you know what I'm saying?
It's not necessarily Hall of Fame. It's not necessarily above average, but we can guarantee you we are better than just the standard replacement level college sophomore.
And welcome to Above Replacement Radio, where we're talking baseball kind of whenever. I'm your host, Chris Gianta. Over there to my actual left, as you cannot see on YouTube, unfortunately, is Daniel Curran. How you doing, Daniel?
Chris, I am doing very well. It is March, and you know what that means. There's baseball this month.
There's baseball.
Just like in February when there was baseball things this month.
Yeah,
yeah. The World Baseball Classic kicks off this week. That's exciting.
It is exciting.
I'll be watching some of that.
Yeah, for sure.
We had, I don't know if you saw this, but Shohei Ohtani hit 2 home runs today for Team Japan in an exhibition game.
Yep.
One of them was on like a one-knee swing where he went to dead center.
Yeah,
I don't know if I've ever seen that before.
Like, it'll be fun to see him, especially in like the pool play where the competition is a little lower, so you can really see him just destroy competition.
Yep.
But yeah, that's probably what's going to be most fun. Like, whenever those Japan games are, I hope they at least replay them because I imagine they're not going to be in
at
like
a reasonable time.
Yeah, like at like a U.S. time zone.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I'm excited to see those highlights. It's going to be crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a good time for us to. It'll be a good time for us because we'll probably be at home for a lot of the World Baseball Classic.
I'll be in Florida for some of it.
Or at Florida. I'll be in California for some of it.
Oh, that's right. You're going to. Yeah, we're splitting up.
But
are you going to be in California next Monday?
No.
Okay.
I'm coming back on Sunday.
Then. Okay. I will be in Florida on Monday, so I'll have to work out how to do the episode from there. But we'll figure it out.
Yeah, we'll figure it out. We'll do it at some point during the week.
Yep.
But yeah, it'll be good because we don't really have cable in this dorm. You have to get everything through internet.
Yeah.
And I don't really know how to get MLB Network, so it'll be good
I've been able to get it on my laptop.
Yeah, I'm glad I'm glad I won't have to figure that out, and I'll be able to watch in a hotel room or or at my original home in Connecticut. But it'll be a fun thing just to have on, just random names, probably some names I haven't heard in a while.
Yeah.
From like random countries. That'll be nice.
Yep.
But yeah, it's probably the most talent stacked World Baseball Classic
100%,
ever.
100%. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
no, I mean, there are multiple teams where it's like super teams. Like Team US, Team Dominican is insane. Team Japan will probably be good. They always make a run. And they have Shohei Ohtani, obviously.
Yeah, I was talking about it with somebody because I think Devers is like projected as like a number 6 or number 7 hitter in the Dominican Republic.
Yeah. Wander Franco might be on the bench.
Yeah, I was talking about it with someone. It was like it's like if an all-star team like was playing multiple games like as their just as a team, which would be crazy. Mm-hmm. So I love it. I really do. But yeah, we'll probably dedicate a brief amount of time to the World Baseball Classic each week before we get into previews. But just observations and what's going on.
Exactly.
But and I hope they can find a way to coincide Baseball Savant and
depends. I mean, yeah.
World Baseball Classic.
I mean, I don't know if like the Tokyo Dome has a Hawkeye.
That's true.
But,
yeah.
like I'm sure like the games in the U.S., like the games in Miami and Arizona, will probably have it.
Right.
I don't
exactly.
See why we wouldn't.
Yeah, because I mean, yeah. To be fair, those things are like $50,000 to install.
I can't wait for like, I don't know, someone to hit a ball like 124 miles an hour, and it just doesn't show up in the leaderboards because it's in the World Baseball Classic.
Yeah.
I don't think O'Neal Cruz is on the team, but like
no.
Neither is like Aaron Judge, neither is Giancarlo Stanton, any of the guys you'd expect. But like,
right.
Yeah.
But yeah, so today we are previewing kind of going through some players in the American League West. Each week we point out each team, what they did last year, additions, subtractions, and then we really dive deep into one player, kind of sneaky under the radar who, you should pay attention to, especially this year because for some certain reason, and then also at the end we ask each other a question about the team, kind of forecasting what they're about to do or what a specific player is about to do.
Yeah.
So we start with the American League West and we go from bottom to top. So we start with the Oakland Athletics, where they're coming off a 60 and 102 season, where they finished last in the AL West. They lost Sean Murphy, probably the best player. They also lost Chad Pinder and Stephen Vogt. They added Jace Peterson, Aledmus Diaz, Jesus Aguilar, Trevor May, J.J. Bleday, Asturi Ruiz, and Kyle Muller. Who are you looking at with this Oakland Athletics team?
So I'm looking at a guy that they added in a trade, but not this offseason. I'm looking at Shea Langler's catching prospect, who's no longer a prospect. They got him in the Matt Olson trade, and he looked interesting last year. Certainly not, peak level, but as a catcher / DH, he had 83rd percentile max exit velocity, 85th percentile sprint speed, and 79th percentile pop time, which already gives him a unique skill set for his position, and is certainly a good one. He had 91 batted balls last year, and he had a sweet spot percentage of 42.9%. That ranked 13th among the 497 hitters with at least 50 batted balls last year. 54.9% of batted balls were pulled, ranking 6th on that same list of 497. And also, 15.4% of his batted balls were pulled line drives, and that ranked 10th on that list. And Langler's slugged 1357 on such balls. So he did that quite often, and he did very well on them, which you're supposed to. It's pulled line drives. You're supposed to hit very well. That ranked the slugging percentage in question ranked 23rd among the 387 hitters with at least 10 pulled line drives. So Shea Langler's had an interesting batted ball profile last year. That's something to build off of for this year. It's a kind of a team that lacks some identity, so Shea Langler is definitely going to look to become one of the premier players in that franchise.
Yeah. Yeah. So my player to watch is also Shea Langler's. It's been a while. Since we doubled up.
It's just been Andy Rodriguez and Shea Langler's.
Yeah. Yeah. So far, that's where we're at. But yeah. I'll add to that. So, 25-year-old catcher. Who was drafted 9th overall by the Braves in 2019. He was traded in the Matt Olson deal. He also slugged 430 and 153 plate appearances last year, which is about average to above average. Only hit 218 because he struck out 34.6% of the time, but he hits the ball in the right direction, as you mentioned, when he makes contact. 9.9% barrel rate and the sweet spot rate that you mentioned. We should note, we mentioned sweet spot rate a good amount, but we should note the sweet spot is a ball hit between 8 and 32 degrees, which is basically, all line drives and low fly balls that can, get into a gap or go over the fence. Not a fly ball that's really going to hang up and get caught in the outfield. So it's those types of batted balls, and the league batting average on those batted balls last year was 580. The league slugging was 1039. So that is a great, although arbitrary, it is a very good area to hit the ball. So yeah, Langler's sweet spot rate was 9.9 percentage points above league average. You mentioned 13th out of 497 among hitters with 50-plus batted balls, and yeah, pop time in the 79th percentile. So those were all the notes I had on Shea Langeliers, and second overlap. I think one every couple divisions isn't anything crazy. But we'll see. It's only the first of this episode.
That's true. That is true.
So we will see.
We're just about halfway through these previews, too.
Yeah.
So.
Yep.
Who knows? My question, if we're ready for that, is.
Yep.
Who will be the face of this team by season's end?
The face of the A's. Yeah, that's a very good question. They really are lacking identity. I forgot to mention they lost Cole Irvin. That's my bad.
They did.
They lost Cole Irvin, along with that, going retroactive addition there. So, that's a really tough question. Sean Murphy was obviously their best player last year. Um, it's weird because this guy might be this guy's like 31 or so. But Seth Brown had a good year.
Yeah, he did. He had a 117 weighted runs created plus last year, I believe.
Yeah, and he's good. I think even though he's on the older side, I think he has a little bit of control. So I mean, even if he's not necessarily the best, he's like a guy doing good things for the team. And I don't know how many of those guys they have. And they don't really have a high up and coming prospect coming up at least soon. So yeah, I'll say Seth Brown right now.
That's fair.
Because he was just good. He'll hit some home runs. He'll get on base. All you can really ask for. So last year, my question. Last year, the A's had 2 qualified hitters with an OPS plus above 100. One of them was traded. Will the A's be able to have multiple qualified hitters with an OPS plus above 100 again this year?
So, I mean, if we're thinking about potential candidates, Seth Brown is the clear one. He's the one who did it last year that's returning. Maybe if Ramon Laureano stays healthy, he could do it. They need breakouts from guys like J.J. Bleday, from Shea Langeliers, from Esteury Ruiz, who stole like 100 bases in the minors. I'll say they have multiple. Sure, why not?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, qualified hitters.
Yeah, that's the tough part.
The tough part is how many qualified hitters, honestly.
Yeah, because a team is only going to get.
Because I mean, Shea
6 or
Langeliers was my
7.
guy to watch, but if he's a catcher, then there's no promising that he qualifies. But then again, he could just DH on the dates he doesn't catch. I'll go with it though. Why not?
Sounds good.
I'll put my faith in the A's to put 2 above average bats on the field.
Yeah, fair enough. Fair enough.
Yeah.
So now we move on to the Rangers, who they're exciting.
Had quite an off season.
They've had quite the past 2 off seasons
Yeah.
for sure. I mean, the star power they've added really has been pretty unreal. But last year finished 68-94 and finished 4th in the AL West. They lost Matt Moore, Colby Allard, Charlie Culberson, Cole Calhoun, and Dennis Santana. And they added Jacob deGrom, Nathan Eovaldi, Andrew Heaney, Robbie Grossman, Clint Frazier, and Danny Duffy, who I don't think really pitched at all last year, but they're probably going to test him out a little bit.
Yeah.
I'll start with my player to watch from the Rangers, and I would understand if we also have overlap. This guy was just very unique and very good. Brock Burke, who is a 26-year-old left-handed reliever. And last year he had a 1.97 ERA, 3.29 FIP, and 3.31 expected ERA in 82 and a third innings pitched. He threw the most innings of any pitcher to start 0 games last year, and he was 6 2/3 innings ahead of the pitcher with the next most innings. He threw 2 or more innings 27 times last year and allowed no runs in 20 of those appearances. Those 20 scoreless appearances were the most 2+ innings scoreless appearances in baseball last year, and the most a pitcher has had in a season since 2003.
Wow.
So
wow,
Brock Burke, he's a young lefty reliever who just broke out last year. He's had an odd career. I imagine he had like a Tommy John or something because he started his career in 2019 but didn't appear in the bigs until 2022, where he threw 82 innings with a sub-2 ERA.
Yeah.
The peripherals were, trailing a little bit behind, but still with the innings and even, a low 3s FIP and expected ERA is still really good. I mean, this is a very productive reliever, and I imagine the Rangers are really happy to have this guy because, their bullpen depth isn't exactly there yet, but he's probably the face of that bullpen right now, and he's a pretty cool, interesting player.
Yeah, I mean, given the record in 1-run games last year, bullpen's going to be a crucial part of their team.
Yeah.
And it's definitely the weakest point right now, just looking up and down the team roster.
Yeah.
So yeah, Brock Burke will be an interesting guy. Maybe I hate the term X factor, but that's a situation where that might apply.
Yeah, absolutely. He's he's throwing the most bullpen innings out of anyone on that team, and I think it's emphasized more when this guy isn't in the Cleveland bullpen or the Dodgers bullpen where he could fall off a little bit, but there's 6 guys that can take his place.
Exactly.
The Rangers aren't really like that, so yeah, he could be crucial.
So my player is a hitter.
Nice.
As soon as you said I wouldn't be surprised if there's overlap, I was like, Chris, there's no way, because I went pretty deep. I'm going with Josh H. Smith on the Rangers, who is projected to not even be in the starting lineup, but he's definitely a very interesting guy. Smith had a fly ball rate of 22.6% last year, which was just barely above league average. The league average is around 25%. He hit .048 on fly balls and slugged .143. And if you think about the type of player that struggles to hit well on fly balls, it's usually someone that just doesn't have a lot of power, someone that is better off hitting more ground balls, keeping it at a low launch angle. Josh H. Smith, however, is not one of those guys, even though the record shows it. So he had the worst and second worst respective batting average and fly ball and slugging percentage on fly balls last year among the 334 hitters with at least 150 batted balls. His fly balls had an average exit velocity of 90.5 miles an hour. That is normally enough to do the job, but it wasn't for him. He had an 87-point difference between the expected batting average and his actual batting average on fly balls. That was tied for the third largest difference on that list of 334. He also had a 237-point difference between slugging and ex-slugging, the 10th largest difference. This guy just got robbed every single time he hit a fly ball. He literally had 1 home run last year, and he had multiple balls that could have gone out, but they just didn't.
Yeah.
Got balls that went to center that just didn't find their way.
Right.
Got balls that just didn't hang high enough. But either way, he was much better than the record shows. And I think he's an interesting player. That is Josh H. Smith.
Yeah. Yeah, that stinks. Yeah, and not a super small sample size either. 253 plate appearances.
Exactly.
Yeah, that sucks.
If you look at the list of the worst, batting averages and slugging percentage on fly balls, obviously Smith's there. But if you put the exit velocity next to them, it's 87 miles an hour, 88 miles an hour, 90.5, 88, 87.
Yep.
He doesn't belong.
Right. Yeah. That's very interesting. Very interesting. I wonder if I imagine the Rangers are sort of looking into that. So now we move on to questions with the Rangers. I'll start with mine. Kind of relates to a guy we've been a fan of for a couple years, Nathan Eovaldi. So he had an AL leading 5.7 F4 in 2021, but 1.0 in 2022. Will he get to 3 F4 in 2023?
Well, he's pitching in a ballpark that is pretty favorable for home runs, and that was really the difference maker for him between 2020 and 2021. I believe he allowed 7 home runs in 2021. He didn't allow one until late June, and he allowed literally 5 home runs in 1 inning at one point in 2022. Yeah. So, it really depends on if he's able to keep the ball in the park and if he's able to stay healthy. And I think he'll be able to do that. I think Rangers ballpark is more friendly for pitchers trying to keep the ball in the yard rather than Fenway. So I will say yes, he does get to 3 F4.
Yeah.
My question is a little similar. Which starting pitcher will lead this team in B WAR?
Which pitcher will lead in B WAR? So
because mind you, if I said F4, it's basically just if DeGrom stays healthy, he wins by a landslide. B WAR is a little different.
Yeah, for those unaware, B WAR relies on a combination of innings and ERA plus, along with they also take away from your WAR if your defense behind you is really good, and they also add to your WAR if you're facing really good offenses consistently. But it's relying on ERA plus, not peripheral stuff like FIP, expected ERA, whatnot. F4 is a combination of innings and fielding independent pitching, and that's pretty much it. There might be a factor with the offenses you face, but I'm not exactly sure. So yeah, with B WAR, yeah, that's a good question. I still think it's kind of a matter of if DeGrom stays healthy or not. I mean, he had some weird ERA FIP differences in his 11 starts last year. But I imagine he stays like at a 2.5, lower twos level. But then yeah, the other candidates are like Eovaldi, Heaney,
John Gray,
Martin
Martin Perez.
and Martin Perez. Yeah, so Martin Perez was the obvious leader last year.
It is fun that John Gray is the youngest pitcher in that rotation and the one with the least amount of service time.
Yeah, that is weird. Yeah, weird to think about. I'll say DeGrom. I don't think he gets like a full healthy season, but I mean if he's at like a 2.3 ERA for 120 innings,
Yeah, he's running away with it.
he's running away with it, and also you have to rely on the other pitchers staying healthy too. Eovaldi's not necessarily someone known to punch out full seasons every single year. But Martin Perez is a good candidate, but he's obviously due for a little bit of drop off from a great year last year.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so that's to answer your question, that's what I have. Jacob deGrom. So we now move to the Angels, another star-studded, top-heavy team.
Yes.
Although
less top-heavy than last year.
A little less top-heavy than last year. They made some good acquisitions over the offseason. They went 73-89 last year, finished third in the AL West. They lost Michael Lorenzen, Matt Duffy, Archie Bradley, and Kurt Suzuki, but they added, excuse me, they added Tyler Anderson, Hunter Renfroe, Gio Urshela, Brandon Drury, Matt Moore, Carlos Estevez, and Jake Lamb. Who is your player to watch from Los Angeles?
My player to watch is one of those additions. I'm talking about Brandon Drury, a guy who had a career year in 2022 because he improved his batted ball data. He had a 10.1% barrel rate last year, the highest of his career, the first time he's ever broke double digits. He also lowered his ground ball rate from 51.6% in 2021 to 40.9% in 2022. He also dropped his pop-up rate by 2.9%. This allowed him to raise his fly ball rate by 9% and his line drive rate by 5%. He went from having 38.7% of his batted balls being fly balls or line drives in 2021 to 52.3% in 2022. If you have half your batted balls being fly balls or line drives, you're doing something right, and that's exactly what Brandon Drury did last year. 44.7% of his batted balls were pulled last year, which is the highest of any season for him. He hit .401 on such balls and slugged .876. That slugging percentage ranked 18th among the 201 hitters with at least 100 pulled batted balls. So Brandon Drury did really good stuff to his batted ball data. It caused him to do much better than usual for him, and that's what he's going to need to continue to do with the Angels this year, because I believe 55% of Angels plate appearances last year came from guys who had an OPS plus below 90. Not just 100, below 90. Brandon Drury, if they're giving that guy a lot more at-bats and he's doing that kind of stuff, you're going to see massive improvements with this team. And it's not just him. It's Renfroe. It's Anderson in the rotation. It's hopefully getting more out of Luis Rengifo. It's getting more out of Jared Walsh, especially against lefties. But Brandon Drury, I think, is one of those guys that can really lift this team to higher standards.
Yeah, I wonder if they would ever have him play first base when there's a lefty starter.
It's probably a factor.
Yeah, because I mean Walsh, down year last year, and there's not really reason not to platoon him.
Yeah.
Considering he was an all-star 2 years ago, but his lefty numbers are absolutely atrocious. But yeah, slams righties mostly. At least he did in 2021. My player to watch is a guy with not much major league experience, but is a projected starter. You've mentioned him a good amount. We're talking about Logan O'Hoppe. He's a pretty cool story. If you are a baseball Twitter person, you may remember him in the Phillies organization when he was at Yankee Stadium and he was like geeking out because he grew up a Yankees fan. He had like caught a home run like a year before that, as a Yankees fan, and then he was playing as part of like a preseason spring training, like sort of spring training 2.0 thing.
Yeah,
and he was really soaking
Summer
it up.
camp.
But it turns out this guy's also really good. So he was a 23rd round draft pick in 2018, but he's worked his way up to being the number 53 prospect in baseball this year, according to MLB.com. He was also involved in the Brandon Marsh trade last year with the Phillies, and he is projected as the Angels starting catcher on Fangraphs. Last year, he hit .283 with a .961 OPS and a 15.7% walk rate overall in the minors last year. Also last year, out of 85 hitters in the Double-A Northeastern League with 300-plus plate appearances, O'Hoppy's OPS ranked second behind Brett Beatty, another Chris player to watch. Then, and I mentioned that's the Double-A Northeastern League, then O'Hoppy got traded to the Angels system, where he hit .306 with an 1147 OPS in 29 games. He had a 22.1% walk rate and 11 home runs in those 29 games. So this guy, I think the Angels are kind of high on him. He's pretty much a top 60 prospect in baseball, projected starting catcher. So someone to look out for. And maybe even a little sneaky rookie of the year candidate. Who knows? You never really know with that type of stuff. But he's someone, a rare. With the Angels, they don't really have a great farm system, but he's kind of a rare little. I don't know if you'd call it diamond, but little diamond in the rough, with the Angel system. So that leads to questions.
My question: who is a better season in terms of FWAR? Tyler Anderson or Reed Detmers?
Yeah, that's good question. Reed Detmers had a really good 8-start run that did not include his no-hitter.
His no-hitter was his 9th best start last year.
Yeah. He had a good run where he increased his strikeout rate, but I was gonna highlight him, and then I realized his strikeout rate was kind of the same in his last 6 starts, where it kind of went back to normal, which was kind of weird. And then Tyler Anderson, who picked up a lot of B-WAR last year, but not necessarily a lot of F-WAR because he had a low ERA.
Hence why I asked.
Yeah, I'll say Reed Detmers, actually.
Okay.
I think he had this weird spike in strikeout rate last year. Tyler Anderson had a great season last year, but it was also only a 3.31 FIP, and I still expect that to go up a little bit this year. Whereas Reed Detmers, he's 23 now, heading into his age 23 season. He's getting better. He's sort of learning at the major league level, which is weird. He got thrown into the fire really after being, I think, the 11th overall pick. So, I'll say Reed Detmers. I think the only thing that makes me hesitate is I think Anderson can get a lot of innings. I don't know about Detmers. My question. It's kind of funny. In 2021, Shohei Ohtani had more position player WAR than pitching WAR. And in 2022, Ohtani had more pitching WAR than position player WAR. Which does he have more of this year?
If I remember correctly, Ohtani had some tough BABIP luck for large samples of last year.
Yeah.
I don't know if I think it did even a little bit out, but he ended up with I
remember it was all red.
Yeah, 320 BABIP last year. Okay.
But it was also a lot of he had crazy red circles, even though he wasn't having the same offensive year.
Yeah, he did.
And the shift's going away, so.
How much was he shifted against?
I imagine he's
a big hitting lefty, so probably a decent amount.
And he's a big pull hitter.
I don't know. He had some. I mean, he was legitimately a top 5 pitcher last year. It took a lot for him to lead or to have a better pitching FWAR because he literally had to have the highest strikeout rate for 3 months.
Yeah.
He was shifted against 88% of the time last year, and he did appear to be a lot better without the shift. But granted, that gives you a small sample size without the shift, which is kind of an issue. I will say that he has a higher hitting F4, B4, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, he didn't really lose too much off of his batted ball profile last year. I know that he did hit a little bit more ground balls and a little less fly balls, but nothing extremely drastic.
Yeah. Always exciting to see what he has in store.
It was fun seeing him have crazy red circles on both sides, though.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Not that red circles automatically means good or better than what anyone else, but it's fun.
It is very fun.
'Cause people will take red circles and mean that's it. That's all I need to say. Or blue circles.
That's fair. Yeah, that's fair.
which it doesn't say that much really.
Yeah. Also, if you don't know what we're referencing, on Baseball Savant, each player has a profile, and the higher you are in a certain percentile, that means your
And
circle is more red, and the lower you are, that means the circle is more blue.
And not only that, but it's also almost all like batted ball stuff.
Yeah, it's mostly that. It's like
Mhm.
yeah, it's expected statistics, and then like hard hit rate, average exit velocity, barrel rate.
Strikeout percent, walk percent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For pitchers, it's like fastball velocity, fastball spin, curveball spin, things like that.
Exactly.
Fun little numbers. Now we move on to the Mariners, who didn't start the year great last year, but ended it well.
They ended the drought.
They went 90-72, finished second in the AL West. They got the number 5 seed in the American League playoffs, beat the Blue Jays in the wild card round, and then lost to the Astros in the ALDS. They lost Mitch Haniger, Jesse Winker, Carlos Santana, Adam Frazier, Eric Swanson, Matthew Boyd, Kurt Casale, Kyle Lewis, and Luis Torrens. They added Teoscar Hernandez, Colton Wong, AJ Pollock, Colin Moran, Cole Calhoun, and Tommy Malone, who I just wanted to add because he's out there. He's
Is Cole
pitching.
Calhoun gonna like complete the AL West? He's got the Astros and the not the Rangers, the A's to go.
Yeah, he's getting close. Hopefully, a midseason trade just randomly happens.
To the A's.
Yeah.
I don't know who the Mariners would be getting in that trade.
Yeah,
I don't know why. I don't know why they'd be. I mean, I could see Jerry DiPoto just doing it, but I don't see what the incentive is for the
I just
A's.
see like a waiver thing happening
Yeah.
where like the A's. I don't
Yeah.
know.
And I don't see why he'd ever be on the Astros, but who knows?
Right.
New things have happened.
My player to watch. I think I'm going a little more obvious than usual here, but I think he really just popped off last year, so he's not necessarily a household guy yet. I'm talking about Andres Munoz, who is pretty unbelievable. Last year in his age 23 season, in 65 innings pitched, had a 2.49 ERA, 2.04 FIP, and 1.84 expected ERA. Out of 152 qualified relievers, his FIP ranked 9th. His expected FIP ranked 3rd. SI ERA ranked 2nd, and strikeout minus walk rate ranked 2nd. Along with that, batted ball profile was amazing. His barrel rate was in the 81st percentile. Average exit velocity against was in the 92nd percentile. And expected ERA, expected batting average, expected slugging, strikeout rate, whiff rate, chase rate, and fastball velocity were all 99th percentile or higher. Also, out of 444 pitchers with 100 plus batted ball or with 100 plus balls in play against them last year, Munoz had the lowest expected ERA out of 444. Also, of those 444 pitchers, he had the eighth lowest line drive rate against, and 7th lowest sweet spot percentage against. That sweet spot percentage is a great place to avoid if you're a pitcher. His four-seam fastball averages 100.2 miles per hour, but he does his best work with his slider. He threw his slider 64.6% of the time, and hitters hit 126 and slugged 176 against it. And they also had a 50.8% whiff rate against it. Out of 318 pitchers to have 150-plus plate appearances end on a certain pitch, Munoz had the 3rd best run value with his slider and the 2nd highest whiff rate. Out of 318 pitchers with those amount of plate appearances to end on a certain pitch, not just sliders. So that's Andres Munoz. Do you have Munoz or do you have somebody else?
Not only do I have Munoz, but you just said like 60% of my script. Yeah, there is absolutely overlap. I largely talked about his slider, but I also went in depth into other things. His slider is one of the most effective pitches in all of baseball. Among the 614 pitches to have at least 100 plate appearances end against them, not pitchers, Munoz's slider ranked 9th in average with a 126, as Chris mentioned, 4th in slugging with a 176, 4th in WOBA with a 162, 7th in whiff rate, as we mentioned, with a 50.8%, 6th in expected batting average with 120. Fifth in expected slugging with a 175. Fourth in expected WOBA with a 162. And fifth in run value per 100 with -3. Munoz slider was good at pretty much everything last year. Like Chris mentioned, he had a line drive rate last year against of 16.5%. That ranked tied for 8th lowest among the 444 pitchers with at least 50 batted balls allowed. Chris, you literally said exactly that. So last year, Munoz and also Edwin O. Diaz, because that's what he allegedly goes by now, became the only two pitchers in baseball history to have a 42-game span with 70-plus strikeouts, less than 10 walks, and no home runs allowed. No one had ever done it before last season. Edwin O. Diaz and Andres Munoz did it last year. And lastly, from June 13th through the end of last season, Andres Munoz led all relievers in FWAR with 2.4.
Yeah.
He is one of the most outstanding relievers in all of baseball. He's easily a top 5 reliever at the very worst. If you're a fantasy baseball player, put him on your draft board as high as you possibly can.
Yeah, and he's only 24.
Yes.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. I was thinking about going with somebody else, but I don't know. Like, Munoz just pops off the page.
Yeah, you cannot.
And it would have been a crime if neither of us talked about Munoz.
Like, he is very good, but I don't think a lot of people think of him as a top 5 reliever, and that's exactly what he is.
And to be fair, it takes a couple good years of relieving to make a name for yourself, which, hasn't happened yet. Last year was his first full year. So, but I mean, it was absolutely crazy. One error I made was I said third best run value. I meant third best run value per 100 as you talked about. I guess a secondary guy. The other guy I was looking at, I'm not going to do a full breakdown of him, but I didn't want to go 2 out of 3 with Dylan Moore.
Yeah, true.
But Dylan Moore is a very interesting Mariners player heading into his age 30 season. Very big utility guy. His fielding was really on display in 2021 when he had 10 outs above average. Last year he only had 1, but his offense really improved. He went from a 610 OPS to a 753 OPS. He also is able to steal a good amount of bases. He stole 21 bases last year. Got caught 8 times, but he did steal 21 bases. And he's always kind of just around the field for the Mariners. So he's someone to look out for. But I couldn't go as deep of a dive, or he's with Andres as I would have with Andres Munoz.
You've already whiffed on Dylan Moore too, right?
I've already whiffed on Dylan Moore.
Yeah.
I don't want to try to do it twice. And for Dylan Moore's sake, I'll leave him alone so he can go and succeed
without the pressure of being an ARR player to watch.
Exactly.
Yeah.
He's going to be asked about that for the next month if I highlight him. But
I can already see Ryan Divish walking into the clubhouse, being like, "So."
Yeah, he's just on. Yeah, he's on MLB Central, and Mark DeRose is "So Dylan Moore, there's a big."
You heard what Chris said.
You heard what Chris said on ARR. He was, he was gonna pick you. When he said Andres Munoz, was it a big sigh of relief? He's like, yes, for sure. So now on to questions. My question is a little bit of fun. Cal Raleigh ranked 4th among catchers in F4 in 2022, while Julio Rodriguez ranked 4th among center fielders in F4. So who will rank higher? Who will rank higher within their position in 2023? It's a tricky question because it's not who will have more F4. It's who will rank higher within the position.
I'm going to go with Julio. I thought you were going to say 4th among outfielders. But no, 4th among center fielders. I think that makes me a little more confident. Who was above him?
Well, I think they counted Judge because he played 78 games in center.
Okay.
And also Trout was above him.
Really? Even with only 499 plate appearances?
Yeah, he had a 6-win season.
I mean, he was insane, but
Rodriguez was at
Rodriguez did
5.
get hurt for a little bit last season, though. I'll go with Julio.
I don't think Michael Harris was above him.
I don't think Byron Buxton was either.
Yeah, we're forgetting someone big for sure.
Nimmo,
yeah. Or wait. Oh, that's qualified. I have to set the
yeah, because Trout had 499.
Yep, I have to set the the minimum plate appearances at 0.
I really wanted the Angels game on game 162 to go to like long extras so Trout could get to 501.
Yeah, you just see you just see guys just taking 3 straight pitches, no bunts, no advancing the runner.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, you're so now for
Yeah.
your question.
Yeah, I said Julio. I think he's going to have a big season again. Who will lead this team, offensively speaking, in barrels per plate appearance? Because Teoscar Hernandez was 11th last year. Raleigh was right behind him at 12th. Julio was also up there. Eugenio Suarez was also up there. Who do you think leads this team
Yeah,
in barrels per plate appearance?
yeah, that's a good question. Barrels per plate appearance also accounts for not just batted balls, but all plate appearances. Barrel
Correct.
rate only accounts for batted balls. So yeah, someone like Eugenio Suarez is a little detracted from that because he strikes out a good bit.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's a good question. I feel like every time I saw Cal Raleigh playing, he was hitting a fly ball somewhere.
Same.
Um,
I think I tweeted it last year, but I think Cal Raleigh leads the league in like OPS when I watch them.
yeah. Yeah. Barrels per plate appearance. Yeah, I'll say. I'll say Cal Raleigh.
Okay.
Maybe I'm hopping on a
Alright.
bandwagon a little too soon,
You
but
should be.
but yeah, he was good, and I think he's a fly ball hitter. I'm just double checking, but it makes it easier when if you hit more fly balls, and you're obviously more capable of accumulating barrels. Yeah, average launch angle was 22.5 degrees.
Yep.
And his
He's
fly
asking-
ball rate was 41.5%.
What was his ground ball rate? Like 31? Holy cow.
29.2%.
I knew that he was a big, up launch angle guy.
And his pop-up rate, like, it's above average, but it's not crazy. His pop-up rate is still below 10%. So yeah, I'll double down. Cal Raleigh, no doubt. So yeah, now we move on to our final team of the episode. It's the Astros. If you didn't hear, they went 106-56 last year, beat the Mariners in the ALDS, beat the Yankees in the ALCS, and won the World Series against the Phillies. They lost Justin Verlander, Yuli Gurriel, Christian Vasquez, Aledmus Diaz, Will Smith, reliever Will Smith, and Jason Castro. They added Jose Abreu and Austin Davis. Who are you looking at with the defending World Series champions?
Yeah, like you mentioned, Chris, the Astros lost Justin Verlander, but they have Justin Verlander at home. And Justin Verlander at home is Hunter Brown,
Nice.
who is a top prospect for the team, and his delivery looked exactly like Verlander's last year. But make no mistake, he was very good, regardless of the mirror image. 27.5% of his batted balls last year were fly balls or line drives. 27.5% were fly balls or line drives. That ranked the 4th lowest among the 583 pitchers with at least 50 batted balls allowed. His breaking balls had an average launch angle of -4 degrees. That ranked tied for 2nd lowest among the 408 pitchers with at least 25 batted balls against their breaking balls. So Hunter Brown he pitched 22 innings last year. He had an 0.89 ERA. He became the 12th player in the live ball era, and that goes back to 1920. And the first player since 2002 to have an ERA below 1 in 20 or more innings pitched throughout their first 7 career games. Hunter Brown looked really good last year in the short sample, and I think he has a lot of room to grow still. And, luckily he's not under too much pressure because they're not looking for him to replace Verlander. They have another ace in Framber Valdez. They have an easy breakout candidate in Christian Javier, who, if I was a betting man, I'd say that's your guy.
Yeah.
But Hunter Brown is going to be a guy to watch this year for the Astros for sure, because they're known for just having a lab where it's like they lose a guy, they make another guy just like him, like we saw with Carlos Correa and Jeremy Pena last year. The big loss that they had, of course, was Verlander, and Hunter Brown would be the candidate of they bring one guy out, one guy in.
Yeah, it's really they have a machine, which is weird to say because they have like a very lowly ranked farm system.
Yep.
But I mean, those postseason broadcasts went into it pretty well last year. But it was like, Javier and Valdez were both like $15,000 signings out of like either Venezuela or the Dominican. I apologize, I don't really know.
Yeah.
But from the foreign pool, if you will, and not really expensive guys who they just turned into aces, to put it quite frank. And yeah, so Hunter Brown, they're looking to make another version of that. My player to watch isn't Christian Javier.
Wow.
I mean, I think he's almost in the territory
He's
of
almost
like
too obvious.
big. Yeah. Because
I just know that's your guy.
I love Christian Javier. Helped me win a free fantasy baseball title because he was listed as a reliever too, so I could put him in that reliever
Those
spot.
are the best guys.
Yeah, it really a cheat code, but
It's also the catchers that double as first baseman.
Yeah.
Or the catchers that actually play first base but are listed as a catcher.
Yeah, yep, exactly.
Those are like the cheat codes to win every fantasy league.
For sure. But yeah, Javier, really interesting. But I think also after the 6 innings of the no-hitter last year, he gained some notoriety. So I went for someone who is definitely a risk to put. I don't know if he's going to do great, but David Hensley.
Yes, I was really hoping you went for him if you didn't go for Javier.
He's a 26-year-old utility player. In 16 games in the majors last year, he played 4 different positions. That's a different position every 4 games on average. And on offense, he hit .345 with a 10.27 OPS. Also, his strikeout rate was 17.6%, and his walk rate was 14.7%. That's pretty spectacular. His average exit velocity was 90.3 miles per hour, and his sweet spot rate was 34.8%. Both are above average. The exit velocity is, I think, 1.9 miles per hour above average, and the sweet spot rate is 1.8 percentage points above league average. And it wasn't just at the major league level he was doing very well. In the minor leagues last year, he hit .298 with an 898 OPS, along with 20 stolen bases in 104 games. So, he's projected on Fangraphs as a bench player who's probably going to fill in here and there, especially with the departure of Aledmus Diaz. He's probably going to take that role. So he's someone to look out for. He hit the ball hard in that small sample size last year. Hit the ball on the ground a little bit, but still his sweet spot rate was above average. So that's always a good sign. He's not really going to pop it up, which is the worst form of contact. So he's, someone to keep your eye on if you're potentially an Astros fan. All right, now we move on to questions.
Yeah, my question's pretty fun. So, Jose Altuve needs 1.5 F4 to get to 50 in his career. His birthday is May 6th. Does he get to 50 before he turns 33?
Wait, sorry, I missed. Who's that?
Jose Altuve. He needs 1.5 F4. His birthday's May 6th.
That's.
It was funny because I put a deadline in my head, and I was like, wait a minute, I'm pretty sure his birthday's around that time. And the date I had in mind was May 6th, and I was like, oh, that's actually his birthday. It's perfect.
Wow. So that's 5 weeks into the season about. 5 or 6 weeks. I'm trying to like pace it.
Yeah.
Because I mean
it's right around the pace. He had 6 last year.
The regular season is like 25, 26 weeks. So yeah, it depends if he has a really good start or not. Not to poo-poo on his birthday, but I say he doesn't get there.
Yeah,
but
that's fair.
But I don't expect him to have a bad season necessarily or anything.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Maybe it's just a weird gut feeling I have, like maybe potential World Series hangover, or he didn't have a great playoffs last year. I don't know if that leads into this season. Real goofy, arbitrary stuff. But I'll say he doesn't get there. But hey, Jose, prove me wrong, and I'll take it.
I'll make you a birthday cake.
I'll accept it fair and square. I'll go to Houston and get you a birthday cake.
Yeah.
Get you a nice Carvel.
I'll give you 33 candles.
Yeah.
Maybe even 50. For the F4.
Yes.
Congrats on making Daniel's line of consideration for the Hall of Fame.
Well,
at age 33.
To be fair, I'd have to wait till May 7th for it to update.
That is true. Well, there's live stats.
Oh yeah, that's true. Yeah.
It'd be funny. He hits a home run to get to 50, and then he goes over 4 the rest of the game.
Yeah.
But it's but he still hit it, so I'm counting it.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. So my question fairly simple. Who has a lower ERA, Framber Valdez or Christian Javier?
I'm gonna go with Framber. Yeah, I mean Framber's just awesome. You know, he had the quality tour last year.
Yeah.
The Astros were wearing those shirts where it was like every start that he had the quality start in like the he had like a streak last year. That was very cool.
Yeah, Framber. Framber, I mean, had an excellent postseason last year.
He might be he might not benefit. He might be hurt a little bit by the shift going away because I mean he's the ground god, of course.
Yeah.
But I think he'll still be fine, and I still think he's an ace type pitcher. I believe he's not entering a walk year, but he doesn't have that much service time left. I don't think.
I don't know. I think his rookie year was 2020, but he played that full year. I think he has 3 years left to control.
He does. You're right. Okay. Well, he's in arbitration now. I think he's it's time for him to start building a little more of a profile. Yeah, I think he'll be good.
Yeah, but interesting question because Javier did have the lower ERA last year.
Yes.
But his FIP was I think a little higher than Valdez's. So yeah, that's what that made that question a little bit interesting. All right, so yeah, that does it for the American League West, officially 2/3 of the way through all the teams. And yeah, next week we'll stay in the West, and we will be previewing the National League West.
Yes, we will.
Talking about those Diamondbacks and Rockies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like some other teams.
Some other teams.
Mostly. Yeah.
I mean, yeah. The Diamondbacks are actually cool. Rockies or whatever.
Yeah.
The Diamondbacks actually, like, at least with the Diamondbacks, it's like, oh, at least they're gonna probably.
They're gonna be fun.
They're gonna be the best at defense. They're gonna make some
absolutely.
cool. They're gonna make some cool diving plays.
And also Corbin Carroll's gonna be pretty cool.
Yep. Hopefully Christian Walker remains like very interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So that does it for this installment of Above Replacement Radio. We hope you enjoyed this one. If you are listening on Apple Podcasts or Spotify and want to check out our digital content, go to the YouTube channel. It is called Above Replacement Radio. And if you're on the YouTube channel and want to just listen without having to be on the YouTube app, go subscribe to the Apple Podcasts and Spotify feeds. They're called Above Replacement Radio as well. And follow us on social media. Follow me on Twitter at Chris_Gianta. Follow Daniel on both Twitter and Instagram at Daniel_Curran. And follow the show Instagram at Above Replacement Radio for all the show needs. We hope you enjoyed this one. And we hope to see you next week where we will be talking about the National League West. We will see you then.
This conversation is over.